And
Yes. Um, 24 of Nisan, Gevura Sheba Gevura. One of the meanings of Gevura is discipline. Uh, there's a book which I would highly recommend, little booklet by Simon Jacobson, which goes through all of the combinations of counting the Omer in terms of avoida. And because just a short word, counting the Omer is a step-by-step journey from going out of Egypt, now we're free. What do we do with our freedom? How do we inculcate a godly usage of the freedom? And each and every day is a day which highlights a particular way in a particular focus in order to get to Matan Torah. So I'll also give a plug for our Monday night shiur. We're doing online on Zoom, which is exploring that through the eyes of my Morim of the Alter Rebbe. How to get from being released from Egypt to actually internalizing the Torah. With that, speaking of Torah, Gadol Torah, shemevi lefur lekol chai. Great is Torah because it gives healing to all living things. Who needs a healing?
Shmuel ben Devar, Shmuel ben Merav, Hillel ben Hila, Baruch Yehuda ben Yehudis, Elana Shalamas bas Miriam, Yehudis Golda bas Eliza Hana, Chaim Yaakov Zev ben Sarah, Yosef Yitzhak ben Leor, Shoshana bas Hana, Gary Robert son of George, and Yaakov Shaul ben Hana Miriam. Did you put on record? I didn't know.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
And thank you for reminding me. I forgot last night when I did my Monday night shiur. So if you have the interest in joining us, 8:30 Monday nights, we're going to be starting over on Sfiras Omer because I missed recording it, so I have to re-give the intro in the first place. So it's a good time to start. And with that in mind, I made sure that I recorded and I'm recording this one. Refuah Shlema to Tuvia ben Avram, to Toba Miriam, Bas Chana Rachel, to Yair ben Adela, to Yisrael ben Yamin ben Leah Gittel, Devor Leah bas Rusa Huvaliba, and Rivka Mina bas Chaya Esther. Refuah Shlema. Who else?
Karen Eliana Gaspara.
One at a time. Go ahead. You stepped on each other. I couldn't hear.
Just one name, Karen Eliana Basara.
Karen Eliana Basara. Have a refuah shlema.
and
Anybody else?
Shalom, Dov Bear ben Rachel Bela.
Refuah shlema b'korev mamosh. Okay. Yom Yom, 24th of Nisan. Okay. He says, first of all, it's customary not to recite the Baruch HaShechayonu during the days of the Omer. There's a bit of mourning here for the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. So we don't do things that connote extra joy. But we are joyous. Simcha paretz all gador. Simcha breaks all the boundaries. But not extra. We all possess the element of non-good. Lo tov, he says. Near Allah, we all have lo tov within us. Everybody. Why the scapegoat, representing evil, is banished to Azazel, was actually a service in the Beis HaMikdash. So, in other words, the banishment of evil is a service that applies to the entirety of the Jewish people. It was an avoid in the temple. So a physical created being inevitably has a negative element, which the negative element is the darkness. Number one, just the plain concealment, the notion of Hashem concealing himself, which ultimately, as it comes lower and lower, begins to devolve, and creates the reality of what we call klippus noiga, and everybody lives with klippus noiga. What we do with it is something else, but we all have that. And as he says, what we need to do with it is we must banish that evil to a deserted, a desolate land, right? As the goat of Azazel was sent off into banishment. What's the word? Avekshikin. Send it away. Send away the darkness. Okay. And bring in a little light. And by the way, that connects us very nicely to Sphira, because Sphira is Lashon Saphir, or Sapir, which means to shine, to bring in light. That's the root of the word Sphiros, to shine. And with that, we will shine ourselves up, polish the apple, and get into the next chapter. Chapter 42 in Lessons in Tanya, that's on page 608. And here, it's page Nuntes, chapter Mem Beis. Interesting. Mem Beis are there 42 journeys, right? There are 42 journeys that we had in the desert getting from Yesius Mitzrayim to Matan Torah. And the journey begins, as he told us in chapter Mem Aleph, the foundational first step of the journey is Yira. And he tells us here, Yira Tata, the lower level of fear. Hashem is watching, Hashem is over us. We are afraid to separate ourselves from that connection to Hashem. And he says, I'll just read it just to recapitulate so we get a lead into where we're going from page Mem Aleph. He says that that the love, of course, is totally important, the foundation of everything. It's not enough to arouse. I'm just reading in English what he says in Mem Aleph. It's not enough to arouse the natural love. At least one has to first arouse the natural fear, which is hidden in the heart of each and every Jew. And that operationally, that means not to rebel, not to distance yourself, take yourself away from the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. Okay, now we'll start. V'hine, as we wrote above, and that's what I just quoted from Mem Aleph, Yirat Torah, concerning the lower level of fear. This is the lower level of fear is fear of separation, and the higher level of fear is awesome experience of the allness. So fear and awe, might be good operational words, fear and awe, but we're talking about fear. Yirat Torah. So based on what we said earlier, Yuvin, it will be understood Heitev very well. Mashakasa Gemara, what the Gemara writes. The Gemara writes in Gemara Bruchas, on the pasuk, there's a pasuk, the Ati Yisrael, it's a pasuk in Devorah. Now, you Jewish people, God is addressing us, the Jewish people. God addresses us and he says, Ma Hashem alechecha shol me'amach. What does God want from your people? Ki im liyirah es Hashem alechecha. Only to fear him. Again, fear being the foundational first step on the ladder of service of higher connections to God. And the Gemara asks this kind of language, only to fear Hashem. He says, Atu yira milsa zitrosihi? Is fear such a small thing? And he says, that's all he asks from us, to develop yiras Hashem? And the Gemara answers, Ein. Yes, it is a small thing. Legabe Moshe Rabbeinu. Legabe Moshe, in relation to Moshe, to whom God is speaking, he tells him, all I'm wanting is fear. He says it's a good thing, yes. It's an easy thing, yes, by Moshe. It's a small thing. So that, of course, raises the question. By Moshe Rabbeinu, it's a small thing. L'chera ain't a moving. At first, this is understood. This answer that the Gemara gives to the question, is fear a small thing? And the Gemara answers, yes, by Moshe Rabbeinu, it's a small thing. So he says, at first glance, we don't understand this answer. The hashol me'amach kasiv. The question that is posed in the Chumash, what is Hashem asking from your people? Me'amach, not from Moshe Rabbeinu. So how do we reconcile this apparent contradiction. Inyan is as follows. Ki kol nefesh v'nefesh m'beis Yisrael, each and every Jewish soul in the house of Israel, yesh ba, has in her, in the soul, nebechinas Moshe Rabbeinu, something of the quality of Moshe Rabbeinu. Every Jewish soul has something of the quality of Moshe Rabbeinu. Ki hu mishiva royim hamamshichim chayes elakus leklalos neshnamas Yisrael. He is one. First of all, he's one of the seven shepherds who draw down godliness to the whole generality of Jewish souls. That's why they're called shepherds. They shepherd, they pasture, they give nourishment to us. And Moshe Rabbeinu is Klalos Kulam. He's the generality of all the seven shepherds, and because he's called Raya Mehemna, the faithful shepherd, or is explained in other places in Hasidus. Yes, he's the faithful shepherd. He's faithful, but he's Raya Mehemna. He shepherds or nourishes Amunah. The Moshe Rabbeinu Chelek that's in our soul is a part of the soul that fosters and has the ability to foster and grow our Amunah. Raya Mehemna. Dahainu, as he says, Shemamshich Bechinas Hadas. He brings down, he fosters, he grows, he causes to grow within us a level of das, of awareness, L'klalos Yisrael, to the whole generality of Jewish people, Leida es Hashem, in order to know Hashem. And here we're going to just take a brief reminder of how Hasidus defines das. Das is not acquiring knowledge of something, as I read a book and now I know something I didn't know. Das is learned from the Adam Yoda es Chava, that the Adam knew his wife. So the notion there is his kashrus, coming together. That's one factor. There are two other factors. The next one is, I'm not in any necessarily in this order. There was a unity there. That's his kashrus. Then there's hargasha. There's a feeling, a hergish, and then there's hakora, which is recognition. These are the three ways of understanding what das is according to Hasidus. Hakora, hargasha, hiskashrus. Recognizing, feeling, and tying together. And so, why am I laboring this? Because these are the things that Moshe Rabbeinu is feeding us. He's feeding us the ability to recognize Hashem, to have a feeling for Hashem, and to be tied to Hashem. That's the spark of Moshe Rabbeinu in each and every one of us. Kol echad ve'echad, each and every person, kefi hasagas nishmasai, back inside, according to the understanding of each and every one of our souls, according to the particular quality of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is embedded in each of our souls. The shor sholamayla, and according to the root of each one of our souls up above. The nekisa mishorish nishmas Moshe Rabbeinu, because all of our souls at root suck from, literally, the root of the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu. Hamushreshes bedasa elyon, and the root soul, which is Moshe Rabbeinu's soul, is rooted in the supernal das of the Yud Svirus of Atzilus. So Moshe is rooted in das of Atzilus, and we who have that piece of it within us have a fusion and an infusion of that in each of our godly souls. And Moshe Rabbeinu is rooted in the Yud Svirus of Atzilus, in Amyuchedes Be'elakim, which b'matzolim, which that das in the root of in Atzilus is rooted in the emanator himself, Baruch Hu, the emanator, may he be blessed. Shehu v'daito echad, because we say about Hashem, he and his knowledge are one. V'hu amada, and as the Rambam tells us, he is the knower, he is the knowledge, and he is the thing known. That's God. And even more than this, b'kol dar v'dar, in each and every generation, Yordin netzoyson minishmas Moshe Rabbeinu of Shalom, there come down sparks of Moshe Rabbeinu, mislabshim beguf and nefesh shel chachmei hador, and these sparks of Moshe Rabbeinu come down and become enclosed in the Chachmei Hador, the wise ones of the generation, who are called Eini Ha'el, the eyes of the congregation. That works on the level of Das being Hakora, recognition. They give us the ability to, as it were, in quotes, see Elikus through our relationship to the tzaddik and the tzaddikim of the door. And they lilmo das as they teach das, they teach recognition, they teach feeling, hiskashrus, and they feel the hagasha, the feeling of Elikus. They teach us, and that's what we're learning here, how to see, feel, and be tied to the expressions of Elikus, which are rooted, and to reveal those things in our soul. And that's the purpose there. The tzaddikim, the tzaddik of the door, has a direct connection with that. And he, as a faithful shepherd, right, as an Inyan of Moshe Rabbeinu, nurtures us with those things. L'lamed das es to teach das to the entire people, ulay de gedulas Hashem, so that we will know the greatness of Hashem, ula'avde b'lev v'nefesh, and serve Hashem with our heart and soul. Ki avodah shebelev, because the avodah shebelev, which is tefillah, avodah shebelev zuhi tefillah, it says in other places, serving Hashem with a full heart, hilafi adas, is according to our connection. I mean, I'm just explaining this narrowly, meaning avodah shebelev zu tefillah, but of course, heartful avodah applies to everything else, and its foundation is knowledge, knowing what this actually is that you're connecting with, which is mamish elakus, godliness. As it says in Posek, da es elokei avicha. It's a commandment to know God. In other words, it's not just a dessert or something attached onto our avodah. It's a fundamental mitzvah to know elakus, to have a recognition of God, to have a feeling of God, and to be tied to God. Da es elokei avicha. Yavdehu b'lev sholem, and to serve him with a complete heart, v'nefesh. A complete heart. V'nefesh chafetza, and with a desiring heart, with a desiring soul. Period. Well, I'll say that in the future, it says, V'le ish esra'ehu, le'mer deo es Hashem. We will no longer need a teacher, because the revelation of all this will be apparent in front of our eyes. As he says, Ki kulam yodu oisei, because everyone will automatically know me as a result of the revelation of the future. Ach ikur hadas, but the main root of das, einu hayediyah levada. So now he says explicitly what I had said earlier. The main root of das is not knowledge, to acquire that I know, as we usually use it in English. I didn't know, and I learned something, and now I know. He says the main ikar, the root of das, is not knowledge levade alone. Sheyodu gadolos Hashem, that one should know in one's mind, cerebral intellect, the greatness of Hashem. I mean, we can all say that, right? There's nothing besides him, ein od mevladoi, etc., etc. Hu levade hu. We know all those things, right? But the main thing is not that we know them in that way, the greatness of Hashem. The pisefrim, from the mouths from books, ukafis forim, or pisefrim, from the ones who are the writers, meaning the ones who expound things, that we know it from there, or that we know it from sforim, from books. That's not the main thing. Ela ikar, what is the main thing? What is the root in regard to das? Hulahamik daite. It's to deepen one's mind, right? And here we have the deepened and connection, begedulas Hashem, right here, ulatakeya machshavtoi, and to fix or fasten one's thought. This is a practice, right? This is a practice of internalizing awareness of Hashem. By practicing fixing this in your mind, b'machshavtoi, in one's thought, b'takeya b'machshavtoi, fix or fasten it in your thought, b'Hashem, you're thinking about Hashem, b'choizek v'oimetz halev, with a strong, strong tie of the heart, v'hamoyach, and the brain, achethe machshavte mukosheres b'Hashem, until one's heart is tied to Hashem, and until one's thought is tied to Hashem, the kesher amots with a strong knot. V'chazak, ametz v'chazak. I don't know the slight difference, but I mean they're both about strength. Just like you can tie a physical thing to yourself or to your animal, that's not a bad example, to your animal soul or to each other, to be tied to it. As I said, one of the meanings is hiskashrus, right? To be tied to it. And so your heart and brain are tied to Hashem as you do to a davagarshmi, to a physical thing. And also, here's the next one, and you see it, and it's as if you're seeing it, with eyes of flesh. Umamik boy, and you deepen yourself in it, you deepen your thought into it. Umamik boy mashavtoi, as is known, shedas huloshin hiskashrus. So there's the other word, hiskashrus, tying it together. Odom yoda, which is talking back to the beginning, where we know the definition of das, which is Adam nu Chava. They were tied together. And that's today's Tanya. Comments, questions? So das is definitely a practice. It's not, yeah, I remember that. I learned that. I know that. No, it's a practice. Visualization, tying together, and feeling.
So how come it's always like clumped together with Chabad?
What do you mean? It's Chesed, Chokmah, Bina, Das. It's a spira.
Yeah, but
they go together.
right.
Chokmah is the power of ayin, right? Chokmah me ayin timatzeh. Chokmah is not wisdom as we learn wisdom either. You know, he acquired a lot of wisdom. Chokmah is koyach ayin, the power to visualize and feel into the ayin. Bina is not just understanding. Bina is habana, is hisbaininess, and the Zohar says Bina liba or bohadei mevin. Bina is understanding, and it's meant to, and has the ability to penetrate the heart. And Das is as we're talking about it. So you've got three pretty powerful, and you know, in linear, Chachma, Bina, Das.
So then it sounds now that each part of the Chabad is part of actually the heart, not just the head, divorced from the rest of the experience.
Absolutely. Everything.
Because Hasidus, when you're learning, they're like, oh, those are Chabad, you know, and then the Midos is more like Varm, you know.
Yeah, but Chabad penetrates. The Midos have no existence without Chabad, right? that's the Histalshalis. Chabad into Chagas. So if you just take Chochmah, for instance, the sense of ayin, the sense of the allness, which is nothing and nothing discernible and discrete, that has to penetrate the heart. The flow of the river, right? Bina is called Nahar, the river that flows out from Eden. The flow, how things flow, both in terms of Torah and the flow of Torah and the flow of life, that has to be internalized in the heart. And all of them come together in Das. Das is the mucker, not the mucker, the makom, the place of internalization of those two. And Das is the direct channel to bring all of that down to the heart. Avodah shebalev. But the heart has to be informed, right? We have another heart. We have the animal heart as well, with its informed state of being. But this is taking the animal, the heartful animal, the animal with all of its passion, and training it, educating it, infusing it with the ayin, the sense of the ayin up above and deeper than all of everything.
Yes. So can I, just to rephrase it a little bit, I always had that question, we're supposed to feel certain things, and you say, well, what if I don't feel it? And I think the essence of Chabad is that you can't change your emotion directly, but through this process of, this is description of Hasidic meditation as opposed to where you can pull it contemplation rather than meditation, that through this mental process, that's how the heart is influenced. We can't
Yes,
just say, well, okay, now I'm going to work on feeling this.
you're right.
It's not
Exactly.
what we do. We put it into, keep putting it over and over again into the brain, and the brain in Mokshalat al Haleb isn't just, controlling the heart, it's changing it through this deep thought process, and most of all, repeating it, because you don't, if you just learn it once, okay, I got it, I understand it. That's not das.
Right.
Your comprehension isn't das, and elsewhere in Tanya it says that habit becomes nature. So you feed your brain, and over it becomes second nature, and then that's how the emotions come into it. Because I mean, some people are naturally more emotional, and some people really need more of the mental process over and over.
You got it. I mean, you said it well. Shalat alalev. That's the whole cornerstone of this book, right? The mind is meant not to stay minded and intellectual and cerebral. It's to penetrate the heart. But the heart needs to be penetrated uh, with that capability that does come from mind, which is ultimately Chokhmah. Chokhmah koyach ma, right? We take the word Chokhmah, the power of what? The power of the ineffable, the power to be, we have that ability to have vision into the ineffable, to the undescribable, into the allness. But as you're absolutely right, the whole point is to bring it to the heart. Avoid the shibboleth. We had that expression here today. The service of the heart, we could translate it, the work of getting your heart to understand. Bohale mevin. Bina liba, bina, left brain over here. Bina liba. Bina is connected with the heart, or bohale mevin, and brings the heart to understand. So you encapsulated it all. Thank you. Oh, okay. Where is it? Welcome.
Yeah, good morning. It would seem to me that emotion, like this is part of what we're here about, because there's always a struggle, because there's emotion that takes us away from serving Hashem, and that seems almost to come of itself. Does not take effort.
That's the natural state, huh?
Yeah. It's just like, you just like
Well,
it just gets you see something, and it stirs in you a reaction that you were totally not anticipating it. While this insight or inspiration, this requires effort. And not only does it require effort, but for the Benoni, it seems to me that you have to always be renewing it.
well, yes. Well, renewal is yes. Renewal and constant moving upward from one level to another level, which takes like climbing a ladder. Yes, it takes effort. But let's not shortchange ourselves. I mean, there are, and I would guess you and many people here have had a natural experience of feeling attracted toward spiritual or holy things. So there is a nature which springs forth, and that nature needs to be fostered, and that's what we're learning here, fostering the Muda.
I mean, even Baruch Hashem, I was okay yesterday to go to the Ohel. So even going to the Ohel, if you spend time before to write and to kind of think about what you're about to do or where you're going, it will be a different visit than if you just walk in.
Well, it's true in everything, right? Intentionality makes it much different. Come on.
So you need da'as. That's like you need da'as for where you are right now every day. That's
okay.
You can't use yesterday's da'as
right
for today's avoda. That's why I guess also part of it here is davening. And davening is also an example of that for some people, davening is a little bit of the way the Baal HaTanya describes it. And for many people, like, I don't know, like people just fall into prayer, and then it won't be an avodah shabalev. There has to be das.
Yes.
It's not like it doesn't happen of itself, which
Right.
is one of the things that I
It's avodah.
find
It's
the
avodah.
struggle of avodas Hashem is that it doesn't happen of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to just be going through the motions.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll read a little Tanya each day and remind us that each day we need to call Yom Kechadashim, right? Every day needs to be new. And hopefully we'll get a little food, spirit food here each and every morning to make it new. So, anybody else? Thank you. Beautiful. Anybody else? Comments, questions? Fine. We'll see you tomorrow in Mir Hashem. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.